If you just bought your first cast iron pan and you have no idea where to start, you're in the right place. These are the 10 cast iron commandments that, in my opinion, are going to save you so much time, so much effort, so much heartache. These tips cover cooking, cleaning, and seasoning your cast iron. In no time, you are going to be cooking with a skillet that your grandkids will be using. Okay, when you first get your pan, the first thing you want to do is something called seasoning. Essentially, cast iron is somewhat porous, so it partially absorbs what it comes into contact with. When you're seasoning a skillet, you apply a layer of fat or oil, and you let the pan get hot. When it gets hot enough, the fat binds to the iron and creates a smooth, non-stick surface over time. You'll want to do this right away, but when it comes to daily use, seasoning is really crucial, so my first 3 tips in this video are all about that. Tip number 1, use the right oil. You can't use olive oil because it has a really low smoking point. Essentially, the oil will burn off before it gets a chance to adhere to the iron. And you can't use animal fat like pork or beef fat because it can sit there and go rancid on the pan. So I've used things like Crisco, vegetable oil, canola oil, grapeseed oil. I think vegetable is the cheaper option here. It works really great, and I think it's a good spot to start for beginners. Tip number 2, don't season a cold pan. A lot of people finish cooking, they rinse out the pan, and then they think it's ready for oil right away. But you actually need to get that pan warm first so that the pores can open up and accept that oil. Otherwise, it will just pool up and get sticky. So once your pan is rinsed with warm water, it's clean and dry, put it on medium heat until the pan is warm. Then apply about a quarter size of oil and give it a thin coat around the entire skillet, like really, really thin coat. You do the front, the back, the bottom, and the sides. Again, cast iron is porous, so the entire thing needs a little bit of oil to help keep it preserved and keep rust out. You'll know it's too hot to season if it's smoking a ton or it's really hot to the touch, and you don't want to season it like that either, just for safety reasons. But after rubbing it down with your oil of choice, let it sit on the heat for a few minutes or until you see a tiny bit of smoke start to form. Then wipe away any excess oil one last time and pull it off the heat. After that, it's ready to go for next time. Okay, tip number 3, don't feel like you have to season after every single use. People online will tell you that you have to do this, and they're wrong. And that's okay. Cooking itself is also a form of seasoning your pan, and unless you're making something acidic or it has a lot of moisture, you don't need to season it after every single use. It's good to, and it makes your next cook even better, but for example, every time I make these smooth, buttery scrambled eggs in the morning, I just scrub that bad boy with some warm water, wipe it down, dry off any excess water over a burner for like a minute, and I call it a day. I know there's a few keyboard warriors in the comments just going off on me right now. That's fine. You guys can keep going. And here's what's great about cast iron though, is every time you cook with fats or oils, you're essentially just adding another layer of seasoning. That's why they're so famous for getting better over time, and they last forever. There are people out there today who are using cast irons that were made before the Prohibition. Okay, number 4, you need less heat than you think. Unless you're searing meat or cooking pizza in it or something, most things actually cook better at a low to medium heat. And cast iron can get way hotter than other cookware. Aside from touch, the sense that you want to use the most with this is your hearing. When you're putting down the buttered bread for a grilled cheese or placing in a few slices of thick bacon, you want to hear a gentle, consistent sizzling sound. If it's bringing you peace, then you're doing it right. If it's aggressively loud and the pan is smoking like crazy when you put your food in, it's probably too hot. Again, unless you're trying to sear something. Number 5, use enough cooking fat. Especially when you have a new pan, it's not going to be nearly as nonstick as it will be down the road. So don't be afraid to use enough oil or butter to cover the whole pan before putting your food in. Is it healthy? Not really. But nothing that's good and cooked in a cast iron really should be that healthy. Tip number 6, don't let it sit in water. Realistically, this should probably be tip number 1, but water is just a cast iron's worst enemy. If it happens, you can still get the rust off and repair it, but it's just more work for you, and it will rust, like super quickly. Again, after you've cleaned it, make sure you put it on the burner for just a minute to let the excess water dry off, and also don't ever put it in the dishwasher. That's all I'm gonna say about that. Number 7, it's actually okay to use a little bit of dish soap. This is one of those great cast iron myths that your grandma probably told you, that you can never use dish soap in it. That's not true, and with some warm water, a scrubbing device like a sponge, and a little bit of dish soap, you can clean almost anything off. For stubborn bits of food, you can sprinkle some coarse salt in the pan with a tiny bit of water and make a kind of gritty sludge to scrub at those burned pieces, or use one of these chainmail scrubbers, and after that just rinse, dry, and season it like normal. Tip number 8, make smash burgers in them. It's freaking delicious. Number 9, don't store food in it. It's not really great for the pan or for your food, and the sooner you can clean your cast iron after cooking, the less you'll risk contaminants, rust, or ruining your seasoning. And finally, tip number 10, don't stress too much. Cast iron is resilient. Even if you do let it sit in the water or a family member runs it through the dishwasher, you can always strip it down to the base layer and build your seasoning back up over time. A friend of mine accidentally let his blacktop griddle sit outside in the rain for like a few weeks, and it had loads of rust on it, but with some elbow grease and steel wool and repeated seasonings, he brought it back to life and uses it all the time. It looks great.
Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed, and please subscribe if you want more cast iron videos. Peace.